social media, you have to do better. You have to do better than this. Like, come on. Like, we need to sort this whole shebang out, because this is just absurd at this point. So, I've got some things to rant about today. It's, again, I have to state, as I usually do when I'm talking about any, like, kind of serious subject, that I'm only one voice of many, and none of what I'm saying here is particularly unique on the whole. People have said things like this, much more eloquently than I will be putting today, but these are my sort of summaries of thoughts on the issue I'm going to be talking about today, which is just like social media just on the whole right now. So obviously TikTok's ban in North America is a pretty divisive subject right now, and it just goes to show how a platform used by millions, probably a billion or so people on the whole, is fragile and fleeting at the end of the day, and how it just goes to show a handful of myopic octogenarian idiots can deplatform entire millions just because of political paranoia. Like, that's effectively all it really is when you come down to it. I'm far from TikTok's biggest fan. I barely use it myself these days, only to try and promote myself and my work. But I empathize deeply with all the people affected by this ban, because it's just really bad news for everybody who is a musician or an artist struggling to get their voice heard on TikTok, because they now have to spend an inordinate amount of energy migrating to other platforms now. A similar thing, of course, happened with Twitter not too long ago, because Mr. Musk decided that it would be a really good idea to remove the block functionality on Twitter, so that put people in unsafe situations regarding people that they wanted to have blocked on that platform. And he also decided to have a bunch of AI bots scrape the entire platform for content to, I don't know, feed his big bullshit machine. I don't know. Really, I didn't particularly read into it too deeply, but all I heard was, your content's going to be scraped for AI purposes, and I was like, okay, well, that's me done and out of the question now. So, great. Now, I must admit, people migrating to Red Note's pretty funny, because it's another Chinese-owned social media app. So in a way, the US government have basically kind of shot themselves in the foot. They've only made their citizens more determined to use platforms that are developed offshore, which is kind of funny in its own right, but like, the actual ban itself is not so funny if you look at it even for just a little bit, when you consider how musicians, in order to get large-scale recognition on the platform, now have almost nowhere to go apart from, a handful of similar apps that have their own similar issues. So this is a pretty devastating blow at the end of the day for TikTok musicians and artists. Because again, they have to migrate to other platforms, and they have to navigate that whole mess, probably translate like a whole bunch of the stuff that they've already uploaded to those other platforms. And it's going to be a big pain in the neck for all parties concerned, I think. Unless it gets overturned, which it could have done by the end of this video's airing, or at some point in the close future, I don't know. But yeah, the entertainment industry is basically just social media now. If you notice this, I don't think we should be condoning this, because this is quite dangerous turf, if you ask me. Billions of voices are all fighting to be heard all at the same time in the world's largest echo chamber. So each individual voice, each individual statement is now being drowned out in a flood of noise, and it's being reduced to meaningless drivel and nonsense right now. And again, it's all teetering on a knife's edge, because, the bullies in power can just do everything that they want to, that they can, to deplatform and take down all of these people's livelihoods and their ability to be heard at all in the vast scheme of things. And it's just becoming untenable at this point. I think we should be seeking other solutions, I think, at this point. Perhaps aside from social media on the whole, perhaps we should be downscaling this whole thing. Because if you've noticed, like, the content that you see on social media is just it's a sort of sludge now. Everything is the same. All this 10-second vertical shot stuff, like, you have to be doing that if you want to be recognized on TikTok or Instagram, or even YouTube now with the YouTube shorts. Like, those sorts of media are compulsory for artists to put together now, just in order to maintain an audience, because our attention spans are so short these days that we need this sort of tiny vertical slice video in order to be recognized at all. And God forbid if you're putting a clip together that's more than 10 seconds, because oh boy, the algorithm's not going to like that, is it? So I complied with this 10-second vertical slice kind of thing for a while, more out of peer pressure than anything, because I was like, well, this is the way people get heard. This is the way people get seen on the platforms these days. It's the only way people are consuming, at least on a large scale, their social media content these days. And it sucks that we have to reduce music and art to content now. I've always hated that word, but that's kind of what it all is now. Like, every other thing that you see while you're scrolling through like Twitter or X or Instagram or TikTok these days is an artist genuinely just trying to be heard and be seen these days. But it's so easy to just flick past it, and then you get a cute cat video or something and you're like, oh, cute cat video. And it's like that cannot be the landscape that we're in now. Like, you can't tell me that in order to advertise my work, my music, my art, what I'm putting my heart and soul into, in order to just be seen at all, I have to be in direct competition with cat videos, images of violence, social injustice, people telling racist jokes, AI voices telling racist jokes, stuff like that. Like the news reports on like actual war atrocities that are happening across the globe right now. All these reaction videos, like boundless nested reaction videos. It's reacting to reactions at this point. It's just going on an endless cycle at this point. And then there's like 100 million other people all trying to do the same thing, and it's just, what is going on? This is untenable. This is surely not like justifiable at this point. We've gotten to the point where it is cyclical and it's not showing no signs of stopping. Everything is snowballing, and it's just becoming more and more and more like a mass grave of content at this point. Like, there's talent out there, sure, but it's just mired in the sludge, the black, constantly rising tides of the content ocean. And I just want to be heard at the end of the day. I just want to see people consuming my music, enjoying it, leaving their comments, telling me what they thought of it. But just to get recognized, just to get noticed, it's nigh on impossible these days. And I'm not a performing monkey, I shouldn't have to do the entertainment equivalent of dangling a set of metal keys in front of my audience's face. It's like, they deserve better than that, right? I don't want to have to shoot these tiny 10-second clips just in order to get people to look at my face and go, oh, that guy makes good music. Like, can I not just, like, put a song out there and have it be listenable? Like, I'm a shy introvert. I'm just trying to find my voice. I'm locked indoors most of the day because that's where, my life is in terms of making my music, in terms of putting my craft out there, working on myself. And it's great that we have the internet. It's great that we have all these means of sharing, music and art and everything else. But social media, just as it stands, is becoming more and more like an absolute tedious chore to maintain a presence on. And I can't keep up with all this screaming into the void and just, trying to be heard over the incessant din of everybody else all trying to do the same thing, just to put myself on an even keel with my fellow artists. And yeah, this is what we've created. This is the hellscape we've created. And I don't think any of this should be considered normal anymore. And it's not just social media, it's the distributors as well. So Spotify, for example. Let's talk about Spotify for a bit, because this really annoyed me. Spotify's an awful company. Let's get that out of the way. It's an awful company, awful platform, and they should be taken to task, frankly, for underpaying artists, pumping their music library full of artificially generated music, the same artificially generated music, and just being a disorganized mess of a platform overall. So they really should see the consequences of their actions at some point. But this month, an AI-powered tech company, which has a presence on Instagram, reached out. Well, they didn't even reach out. Here's the thing. I saw one day that my listeners had gone up, and one of my Spotify tracks has like broken 1,000 views. It's a pretty unassuming track. It's just an extra track on the deluxe edition of my debut album, which is like 2 years old at this point. So I'm like, why are people like suddenly looking at this extra track on the deluxe edition of my debut album? And I did a little bit investigating on Spotify for Artists, of course, and I realized, the view count on this track has, you probably guessed by now, it's been bumped up artificially by an AI-powered tech company that specializes in boosting views for artists that have like under 1,000 plays, for example. And I got added to a giant playlist of like 10,000 songs, all of which had, around about 1,000 views each, or, climbing from 1,000 views. And I didn't ask for this. The same thing happened with my musical buddy Velvetic. His music has experienced a similar thing. Like, his listener count has gone up for some reason, and one of his tracks has broken 1,000 listeners seemingly out of nowhere. And then you only have to go on Spotify for Artists and you realize, oh, it's on a playlist that's owned by an AI-powered tech company. And I looked at my monthly listeners today as well, and they went from, they were double digits before. They were very small. I'm still kind of trying to find my presence on Spotify, for example, but they were very small to begin with, and now they have just broken, or they're about to break 1,000 monthly listeners. And this feels cheap and dirty and ill-gotten, frankly. Again, I didn't ask for this. It just seems like it's false information. It's like, this is not people listening to my music, it's bots. And I call it a violation of my ability to organically grow myself as an artist at this point. I didn't ask for bots to troll through my music and fuck up my listener count or my play count on any of my tracks. It just happened. So this is the terrain that we're working with now. It's extremely hostile. I mean, it is a double-edged sword. Again, the internet is amazing for just getting your content, your music, your art out there to share it with friends and colleagues and other people. But on the wider scale, there's like zero chance of you actually getting an organic audience these days unless you pour a huge amount of money and time and resources into like really aggressive marketing campaigns. And a lot of us just don't have those resources. I don't have the money to spend really on, shelling out hundreds, thousands of pounds on like aggressive marketing campaigns, to actual advertisers. I actually investigated how much it would cost me to have a single advert on an electronic billboard at my workplace. Actually, it was not cheap. It was something like £1,000 just to have it on one billboard. That's absurd. That is ridiculous. I do not have the money to sling around on stuff like that when everything that is powerful enough to actually organically grow your audience in the real world is that exorbitantly expensive. And I abandoned that particular train of thought. So yeah, we're working on very hostile ground at the moment, us artists. We're competing not just with each other, but with these faceless big tech companies that are interfering with our ability to work at this point. They're doing everything they can to line their pockets and push aside smaller artists like myself. So really feeling the sting of that right now. At this point, I'm ready to completely take my music off of Spotify and stop my monthly subscription as well, because screw giving those guys any more money. I was warned about Spotify's like evilness beforehand, to be fair. I didn't particularly ignore the warning signs or anything like that, but I am now looking at the landscape that we have now, and it is just frankly ridiculous what we have to put up with. And it's horribly unfriendly and anti-artist at this point. Just pumping your platform full of artificial music. Like, why would you do that? What's the actual point? What's the end goal there, except to appear more successful to shareholders? I mean, good God. And I'm becoming increasingly disillusioned with the whole concept of social media, if I'm to be frank. So stuff like TikTok and Instagram, I barely post there anymore. And I'm sick of doing the vertical shot stuff. They're woefully inadequate platforms for actually getting your music out there. You can't really promote your music on those platforms without adding to the sludge. You're in direct competition, as I said, with all sorts of crap that comes from all corners of the globe, whether you like it or not. And I frankly can't be bothered at this point. So what's the alternative? What's the way forward? Did you know that Bandcamp has a free app? You can just download that. All my music's still on Bandcamp. I am going to continue using YouTube because, you know, the monetization options on YouTube, for example, are not fantastic, but they are there. Obviously, I'm still using Bandcamp because that pays me quite handsomely when, you know, listeners go and actually purchase the music for actual real money dollars. So yeah, it's all up there. You can continue streaming my music through Bandcamp because I have like infinite streams on Bandcamp. So if you don't have money, that's fine. You don't have to purchase anything. I'm not forcing anybody to give me money for my music at this point. But please do support your artists, your fellow musicians, and everything like that on the platforms that actually earn them the money. And please do everything in your power to resist the temptation to support platforms like Spotify that at this point are just so aggressively anti-artist and pay meager pittances for, you know, hundreds of streams for the music that we pour our heart and soul into. So yeah, that's about it. I hope I wasn't too overly negative here. I really am not throwing in the towel per se just yet, but I just have a few grievances with the landscape that we have right now. Hopefully you share my sentiments. There is music coming soon, so do stay tuned. I've got a lot of very angry, very aggressive, very anti-modern life music in the pipeline, so watch out for that. Yeah, none of this is normal, guys. We just have to resist it. Yeah, we just have to resist what's being classed as normal. And probably retake that term for our own purposes, reclaim it for ourselves, and reclaim our ability to share music with the world at large and continue just being our authentic selves in the midst of a lot of artificial bullshit, really. So that's about it. I will see you guys later.